Hello and welcome to episode 23 of the LiveFitNow Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. I cannot wait for you to hear today's conversation. It is with a guest who discusses with myself one of my favourite topics. We talk about resistance training, weight training, lifting weights. We talk about some of our favourite moves, how we like to approach training, and also my guest is particularly focused and a specialist in training people with chronic conditions. So if any of those subjects tickle your fancy, please do continue to listen because we cover some fantastic and interesting areas in this episode. So this episode will also be on YouTube, so if you'd rather listen to it over there, feel free to hop over. And please do remember to share it with your friends and family. It really does mean so much to spread the word of the LiveFitNow podcast. And the best way of doing that is via you, our audience. So if you are on social media, we are on all of the platforms. Find us at the LiveFitNow podcast. And also word of mouth. It's one of the most powerful ways of sharing what you're listening to right now. So if you have a favourite episode, why not tell a friend about it? Or if you're having a conversation and think, oh, that episode would be great for you, please do share. I would love to hear what you're thinking and what your favourite podcast episodes are right now. So don't forget, you can get in touch at any time. But now, because I'm so excited about it, I'm going to leave you with the conversation with my guest today, talking about personal training and lifting weights. Without further ado, here's the conversation. My guest today is a fitness specialist focused on helping people live with chronic health conditions live higher quality lives. He has worked in small personal training studios, CrossFit gyms, big commercial gyms, and now runs his own online personal training company. He has also got his very own podcast, Quality Life Fitness. Welcome to the LiveFitNow podcast, Colin Laughlin. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
You're so welcome. So I'd love to start these conversations with you sharing your story. How have you reached this point? What's your background? What's your experience?
Sure. Kind of a loaded question. I don't want to draw it out too long, but so I've always been in sports my entire life and ended up in a physical therapy clinic for rehabbing my elbow. I was a baseball player, and I think that was in like middle school, so like 7th grade or so, and I just fell in love with it. I really enjoyed my experience at PT, which is really not a common experience for a lot of people. It's a painful thing, but a necessary evil. But I loved it, and I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. And so that never wavered all the way through college. I was like on the track for physical therapy. I was taking classes I didn't have to take for exercise science, which was my major. I had to take physics and chemistry and bio and all the stuff that people struggle with. But got to the point where I like had the grades to get in, and I'd done my hours of observation working as a rehab aide. And I was like, all right, I'm going to take a year off, save money, because grad school is like 3 years, no summers. Like, do I want to take on all this debt? Let me save some money. And I found a private personal training studio, one-on-one. And I found that I was really kind of taking my influences from my rehab aid experience and applying it to the personal training end. And we worked right next to a personal training clinic, or a physical therapy clinic, and they would send people over once they were done with their rehab. So I kind of found this little gap in rehab and personal training, and I fit right into that space. I was like, this is way more fun. I don't have to deal with insurance. People choose to work with me. They're typically not in pain. And I like going to grad school was just kind of became something that wasn't worth it to me, and found out that through my training, I was like, okay, who do I really train? And it was over 50, joint problems, diabetes, high blood pressure, some kind of chronic health condition. And I worked really well with them. We bonded. I'm an old soul. I'm 27, but I'm bonding with these like 55, 60-year-olds. And
I'm so in the same boat as you.
yeah, like we're on the same wavelength for a lot of things. And I was like, well, why not just steer into this, and got certifications and started studying for specific chronic health conditions, and just stuck with that and made that kind of my niche, if you will, and then left to go off on my own. And then coronavirus happened, and took it all online instead, which I'm really happy about. I'm so glad I didn't open a brick and mortar space right before all this, because that would have been a struggle and stressful. So I got the online company running. It's going well, and that's about it. That's where I'm at right now. Yeah.
What's your vision for the future?
That's a great question. It's been one day at a time at this point, because it's still so new. The idea ultimately is to have a membership website for people that once you're a client, you get access to a whole separate portal. You've got exercise library, you've got videos explaining why we do certain things that we do, and then adding more trainers and being able to step away in one aspect and really just focus on training a very select few people and giving them everything. Not that I don't already do that, but I'm capped by time. And so the idea is to hopefully be able to hire people, give them a great career opportunity where they can work from home or use it as a part-time job, but then also start to work with more people. And online is the great kind of way to do that. I've been training people hundreds of miles away from me right now, and it's amazing. It's so fun. And so I don't know where it's ultimately going to go to answer that question, but the idea is to add more trainers to grow the business and be able to kind of step back and let it become its own thing.
Sounds great. And what would you say some of the most common issues that people come to you? What are usually someone's goal when they're getting in touch with you?
I would say the most common goal is weight loss, but the most common issue is going to be anywhere from diabetes, joint issues, high cholesterol, high blood pressure. There's a lot of those, and they typically, you don't just have one, right? Like if you've got obesity, you tend to have another issue going along with that. And so the main goal is weight loss, which I'll be honest, I typically steer people away from having that as a goal. I think it's frustrating, and it's usually like an aesthetic goal. And I'm like, you see yourself every day. If you're looking in the mirror, you're never going to notice the changes. Like I've been through the weight loss journey myself, and I didn't even notice it happening until I saw people that I hadn't seen in 3 months. And so I typically steer people towards, let's work on strength training. Let's make some performance goals, because those are very linear. You know, you can do 5 push-ups now, you know, you want to do 10. Like that's a much easier mental process. And so that's typically where I'll steer most of my clients, is just, what do we want to be able to achieve physically? And that roadmap is way more clear.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, is resistance training your first port of call when you're getting people moving?
Yeah. So my philosophy has kind of been, you can typically do cardio on your own. So you don't need me to watch you on a treadmill for 20 minutes or watch you on a bike for 20 minutes. It's a waste of your time, my time, and your money, because we could be spent doing something else. And I can tell you, just do this later. I feel the same way about machines too. You know, unless it's like a cable machine where there's a lot of variability in terms of form and stuff, but a machine chest press, you're not using a lot of my knowledge there. So strength training is typically where I'll take people, because they're scared to do it, first of all. And so they're not going to do it unless they're with me. And then second of all, form is so important that you do need that extra set of eyes on you to learn that aspect of things. And so that's where I see my value in that space. And strength training provides so many different benefits than just getting stronger. It improves mobility. It helps you lose weight because you're working on higher metabolic, fast twitch muscle fibers. And I like to kind of flex my knowledge on people with that. And like, you're getting a high quality trainer. I know all this, and this is why we're doing it. And that just helps people kind of stick around longer.
And weights are so much fun as well, because I have the exact same focus as you. I completely agree with what you've just said. And fear is definitely a big part of it. And confidence to walk into that area of the gym is just like it's too overwhelming. So if you can teach someone how to do that, I really see it. It's a skill for life, and it is something that in some way or another we should be doing for life. In fact, I have a client that's heading towards her mid-80s and still, in fact, the bits that we do most that she enjoys is when we're lifting weights.
Yes,
And
it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a huge confidence boost. It's like you said, it's variety. And so people, like, they need this constantly changing thing or this constantly evolving part of their life. And it's great. I love it. It's so much fun.
And it's the instant reward, which I think often people don't necessarily feel from cardio. Like, I've literally had people say to me before, I hate exercise. So essentially, good luck at finding something I'm going to like. Right. But they've never done weights before. And once they try it, 99% of people just fall in love with it because you get immediate gratification. You shock yourself that you can do something. You're always stronger than you think you are. Mm-hmm. And every week you're making progress because you're tracking what you're doing and progressively overloading. And every week you're getting satisfaction rather than like, oh, I didn't manage to do that this week. There's always something. There's always a win to take from a session, and that keeps the mind interested, and then you're going to keep going. Totally
agree. Or you find like the strength in a weird spot. So like I trained this one woman, she was 65. She actually did back squat 135 at one point. But she like worked out alone. We were private. So she never like was able to compare herself to what other people do. And then she was helping her family move furniture. And part of it was like lifting up this heavy table. And she just took one end by herself. And they're like, holy crap, like, what are you doing? And she's like, this is fine. I was like, that's the moment. That's when you know you're strong. Yeah.
I so have stories like that from clients as well. It's so much fun. And they're like my moments of joy. It's not, as you say, so many people come with weight loss goals, but when people say they feel more confident or they can feel the difference because they've changed their posture within even a few weeks, they're the things that really make me happy, because improving confidence is just priceless.
Yeah. And it's hard to measure, but that's what really makes you feel good and like fuzzy inside as a trainer, which you won't get necessarily from just having somebody on a cardio program. And so that I think strength training is really the way to go for almost everybody.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. So would you say you have quite an holistic view towards people's goals, or are you very much focused on that resistance training?
No, so I'm very holistic in terms of my approach to things. I actually really like to connect with other health and wellness professionals. So I like to have a network of physical therapists, chiropractors, acupuncture, massage therapists, yoga, Pilates, because I've grown a lot as a trainer, where when I first started out, I was intimidated or scared to lose clients. And so I'm like, oh, you're going to talk to this person? Like, it would offend me, and I would get like way too sensitive about it. And now that I train chronic health conditions and know that I'm really good at training that, I can send you off somewhere else to do something because it's a supplementary thing, and it helps you achieve your goal faster, and I feel fine about it. So I like to be able to send people off and help other fitness professionals by getting them somebody as well, which was not how I felt at the beginning of my career, which I think is true for a lot of people. Like, you're scraping to get clients and struggling to get clients. But once you have that foundation and that base and you get solid in what you do, you should be absolutely sending people off to try other things, do other things, and let them explore what they can physically do, because you never know what yoga might do to help somebody's flexibility that you're not able to teach them. So I think if you're not being holistic, you're not helping.
Yeah, a strong network is so important, isn't it? It really does. It makes everybody get more from it, I think. Not only do you then get a nice network of other people that have similar goals to you but have different methods to do it, you know that you can do the best job possible by passing on the information to people that you've worked with. And it's, again, you get that fuzzy feeling when you can recommend someone and pass someone on, because everyone is winning.
Right. And then the minute you do that, the person that received that person wants to send you people. And so it's this goodwill karma thing that happens, and it's great. I don't know why more people don't do it.
No, I guess it's confidence on the side of the trainers at that point, isn't it? I guess you have to have confidence that you do a good job, but that doesn't necessarily mean you can do all the jobs.
It's a big factor. And I think knowing what network helps you best is super important. So like for me, I know physical therapists and chiropractors are going to be a main source of referrals for me. So I want to help them more than anybody. Whereas like maybe a strength and conditioning coach is different and they want to get them connected with yoga more for flexibility. I don't know, but their network is going to look different than mine. So having, you need to know what your focus is before you can start to build your network around it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And have you had the experience of being able to reverse some people's chronic conditions?
No, I wouldn't say reverse. Numbers have gone down in terms of somebody's like A1C levels for diabetes, or you'll see blood pressure come down. But as far as like osteoporosis and bone density, you're probably never going to go all the way back to not being osteoporotic. So my focus, and it's in the title, is just quality of life. And that's always kind of been my goal and the main measure. And improving somebody's quality of life, you can do that regardless of whether the condition for somebody changes or not. Because if they're not physically active before they see you, adding that only helps them regardless of what the numbers happen. So yeah, I struggle to say whether somebody's totally like gone into remission from anything, but it's definitely improved either quality of life or in some cases like high blood pressure or like A1C levels. They have gotten some physiological benefit from it. But that's a little harder for me to measure because I got to connect with the doctor and make sure that they're like getting their blood levels, and it's a whole thing. So weight loss, obviously people will experience weight loss, and that's a good one. That's a big one for joint health and overall confidence and just moving better. That's a big one. So that's somewhere where I will see a lot of result.
Yeah, feeling and looking better. It happens so quickly when you get people lifting weights, especially if they've never done it before.
Mm-hmm. What kind of lifts do you like to have people do?
I like to reconnect people with their bodies. So I want to get that mind muscle connection, of which some people are completely disconnected from their muscles. So I do, I guess, traditional bodybuilding style exercises. I do the compound moves, and I will break their body down into compound isolation moves so that their whole body is worked. So I like doing simple things like a bicep curl because people can often surprise themselves with that. And then I like to challenge them to see, as you mentioned before, press ups, how many press ups you can do. But the ones that people really love to be able to do is the excitement when people can do a deadlift.
Yes.
Is so amazing because I think it's just such a primal thing. And they're like, oh my God, I managed to pick that up. That is just, it makes them feel good. It's just so basic. I love that.
Well, and it's such an intimidating exercise, or it looks intimidating. And so when they do it, they're like, holy crap, like it's amazing. It's awesome. Yeah. So
yeah. But I also like things like lateral raises, as strange as that might sound. And most people really can't stand it, and like bent over fly. But because it gets them to focus on a tiny bit of their body that they've never thought about before. And I do enjoy an isolation exercise for that reason, because it really does allow you just to pinpoint different areas of your body, some of which people have never directly felt before. So I just love getting that mind muscle connection. But it's definitely got to be a mixture of compound and just, as I say, I generally focus on bodybuilding style moves just so that there is control the whole time. So I've not got a huge amount of experience in CrossFit. So do you work quite a lot of CrossFit into your workouts, or is that the past?
It's interesting. So like, because I train chronic health conditions, typically people don't jump in that population because they're usually over 50 and their certain movements are just contraindicated. But I will take the concepts of Olympic weightlifting and apply it to somebody with chronic health conditions. So instead of doing a classic clean and jerk, we'll do a dumbbell power clean and jerk. So it's a lighter weight, but you still get the same effect on the fast twitch muscle fibers and that same metabolic effect. So like my certifications, they range in terms of what they cover, from certified strength and conditioning specialists to USA weightlifting to exercise medicine. And it's all different, but I take what I want from each one and apply it to the specific person. And so it's not necessarily doing the Olympic lifting moves with somebody, but taking that concept and trying to weave the benefits from that into somebody else's program, which takes some practice and some skill. It didn't happen overnight, and you got to kind of try it yourself and test things out and be like, okay, how would my client try and cheat on this exercise and make sure they don't feel it? And then I can like work around it that way.
Yeah, I know. It's very difficult. And as much as you can study things to great detail, nothing beats experiencing it yourself and asking, and just simply asking, where are you feeling that? How does that feel to you? Can you feel it anywhere? Is it just generally difficult? Every person you ask that and you get a response, you're learning and you're building up your catalogue and library of knowledge, and how you might be saying, well, I know I feel it like that, but someone said this, it may need a tweak so that the next person can benefit from someone else's experience. And it, totally, as you say, all melds together, doesn't it? And you're so right about lots of experiences coming into it. I mean, I'm studying my yoga qualification as well because I love that. Yes. And exactly how it can marry together, and how you might be being restricted to be able to get the maximum amount of particular exercise because of flexibility or mobility, and being able to work together with different clients and just figuring out what works best for them is what makes it so much more fun.
Yeah, that's the art part of the job, and that's where I think a lot of creativity and it's what separates a lot of trainers too, because at the end of the day, the knowledge is out there and you can have it, but applying it's totally different. And that's where a lot of the art form of all of this comes in, which is fun.
It does keep it really fun. I couldn't agree with you more. Have you got your top 3 lifts that you like to do?
Dang. So I personally am a big fan of the Olympic lifts. So I like to do cleans, and this might be cheating, let me know if it is, but I love front squats too. And then lunges. So lunges aren't necessarily a lift, they're more a movement, but I'm going to put it in there. Those are my top 3 for sure.
I like that. It's an interesting mix, actually.
What about you? What are yours?
Well, you've just threw lunges in there and it wouldn't have popped into my head, but now you say it, I have to say it. I do love lunges. I love lunges because it's often an exercise that people think hurts them. But that's probably because they've never been taught it.
Yeah, usually.
And there's a few dodgy techniques going on.
Well, yeah, there's that. But I also like the exercises you can do, and you could almost do them forever if you can deal with the pain. Like a pull-up, you get to a point where it's like you literally just can't do it.
Yeah.
But a lunge, you could always do one more. And that's kind of like the masochistic, like enjoy the pain kind of thing. But that's
it's true. It's one of those ones you can literally do it until you're dropped on the floor and you physically can't do it anymore.
Exactly.
No, that's a good one. I like it. It's going to have to get me thinking now. So you did briefly touch on the point that you had a little bit of a journey yourself, I'm guessing through injury, and you said you had a weight loss journey. How did that come about and what got you back on track?
Yeah. So when I was in college, right, I gained a lot of weight my freshman year to the point where like I didn't notice it because I played baseball in college and I was like, oh, I'm an athlete. Like, I can eat whatever I want kind of thing. And I technically fell in the obese category of the BMI, but it's like the BMI is kind of a crappy scale anyways. Most athletes are obese, but I was eating ice cream every day and probably like way overeating. So my calorie intake was just way above what I was burning. And it's such a gradual process. And this is why everybody struggles with it, but you don't see it yourself because you see yourself every day. You're never going to notice the change. So I guess you try and like put that belt on and it doesn't fit anymore. So after my freshman year of college, I got a job where I was working from 7 to 3 and, I'd pack my lunch. So I wasn't at home like snacking or grazing. And then I was also playing baseball throughout the summer. So I'd go from work, get a snack, go play baseball. So I was decreasing my calorie intake significantly and increasing my calorie expenditure, not by any conscious effort, but over those 3 months of the summer, I had lost, I want to say 20 or 30 pounds in 3 months, which is a pretty aggressive weight loss, and not knowing it. And then when I got back to school and people saw me, they're like, holy crap, Colin, like you look good. And I'm like, oh, thanks. And finally noticed it in terms of how I felt, how I was playing baseball. All of these things started to kind of fall into line. I was like, wow, I was really bad. And I think by the end of it, I had lost 55 pounds, close to 60. I was like over 200 pounds, got down to 155, and then started to kind of retrain myself. And I was running. I was only running that entire time. So that was kind of like my avid runner phase, and then slowly transitioned over to weightlifting and got back up to 175-ish, right around there, 175, 180, but it was a much healthier 175, 180. And I was a lot stronger. I stopped running. I started weightlifting a lot more. So like my body type or my circumferences weren't like expanding when I gained the weight. They were just kind of expanding in the right spots, I guess. And so that was kind of the journey there. And it didn't start out as a conscious thing, but it turned into a conscious thing. And I love that it happened for me because it gives me so much better insight and empathy into other people that are trying to do it. But when I can talk to somebody and be like, hey, you and we are going to struggle to maintain our weight now, because once you lose weight, the fat in the cells goes away, but the cell itself stays. So you and I can regain weight so much faster than somebody else that hasn't had that weight before. And it's almost like this, we're in it together kind of thing. And it's just another subtle way in me building a stronger, deeper relationship with somebody that they'll stick around for years instead of just a couple months.
Yeah, it's about building that relatable connection, isn't it? The more you can relate, the easier it is to support and help and have that believability as well. Like it's all very well being told by someone that clearly knows and wants to do all those things. But if you are someone that has been through at least some of these experiences before, you can actually say, look, I know how it feels. And you can say the things that you would have felt back then, whereas you just can't if you've not been through certain things. And as you say, with training, you need to be able to have trained these methods yourself to see how it feels and how it works and what goes together again. And as much as we all feel it slightly differently, there's still that common ground that you can relate to one another. It's so important.
Yeah. And you need to be genuine in how you do it. Where like, if you didn't have that weight loss journey, you saying, I know how it is, doesn't sound the same. Whereas somebody that genuinely has been through it, and it's like, I get it. Like it hits that person that's listening, it hits them so differently. It is a very different experience. And not that if a trainer's out there and they haven't had this weight loss journey, that by no means doesn't make you any less of a trainer or anything like that.
No,
but
it's fantastic, but it's different.
I just use it to my advantage. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting and powerful, I think, the fact that you did it accidentally, because I actually think if you can convince people to do it accidentally, it's so much easier because it just becomes part of your life. I'm very much pro looking at your whole lifestyle, thinking of it as a lifestyle change, not thinking of it as a short-term plan to get you the abs, get you the 2 inches on your arms, like all these magazines try and sell you. Actually, no, these are things that you can sporadically implement, and some things that you will always implement for the rest of your life. There's no magical answer. There's no, big party that needs to be had to say you must do this, this, and this, and then you'll get your results. Actually, it's just life decisions that will last forever. And again, you're teaching skills that you can interchangeably use when you need them forever.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think sustainability is really the key to all of it. Probably nutrition more so than fitness, but it's like you always get the person that's like, I've got a wedding in a couple months, and it's like, okay, I'm still going to train you to live a healthier life, and like the wedding will just be a factor. But yeah, I run into that a lot, and it's hard. It's really a challenge to reshape somebody's view on like, you should be doing this for the long term, not the short term. So I guess like, how do you try and convince somebody to be different in their views?
through many conversations, but I always try and lay it out to the fact that most of it is about habits. And say you do have a wedding, that's the motivator. That's the thing that's initiated you wanting to make changes. But do you just want that for the wedding, or do you actually want to feel and look like that for life? And usually once you get down to the nitty gritty, most people actually would quite like to just feel good about themselves all the time. They just happen to want to do it right now because they've got a deadline in 2 weeks, or even 2 months. So again, I guess it's that relatability of, as far as the motivation you've got right now will go up and down, because motivator is a bit of a killer like that. It doesn't actually stay nice and level all the time, which is most inconvenient. So I actually talk mostly about habits. It's so much about habits and building habits and how to create new healthy habits and how to try and reduce habits that aren't necessarily helping you towards your goals, and starting with one thing that's easy to change, because usually if you can get it down to several things, you start to feel better. And once you start to feel better, that's a motivator. And then once you start to feel better, and it's because of these things, suddenly the wedding becomes less important, and actually you think, oh, this feels good. I'm going to keep going with this. Yeah. So I guess it's just trying to figure out what most people's drivers are. And actually most people want to feel better.
Yeah. It can be hard to drill down into that why, though. I feel like, because this is my personal experience, is you almost just want to get to training right away because you know that's what they're paying for, and they're going to be upset if they don't get that. But it's at the same time, it's like, I need to know why you want to train so that we can get this kind of deeper benefit out of training than just movement. Yeah. And that's hard to try and balance that. And so I've gotten in the habit of weaving it in there. So like we'll have like a 5-10 minute conversation at the beginning, and then we get to working, and then I'll sacrifice the workout if the conversation's going really well. So if we're having a really good conversation, I don't care if you're supposed to be doing your set right now. I'm getting more value. You're getting more value out of this conversation. It's okay if this workout doesn't go as I had scripted it. And that kind of thinking is not common, I don't think, within the fitness industry. People don't want to have conversations or really deep conversations. They want to kick somebody's ass, and it's just not a long-term benefit to that.
No, I feel like we mirror how we train. And it's so true. Like sometimes you'll get people, and I will have people, because I am very weights focused. You know, that's mostly how I advertise in my studio and coaching people. That is the core of the type of exercise that I am helping people understand. And sometimes I will get people that purely come to me wanting to learn how to lift weights. They want to know how to perform the moves, how to train, how they can either have a gym at home or go into the gym and know what they're doing and have a program to follow. But that is the smallest percentage of people. Yep. And they are great fun, because it's really fun just literally push people and train really hard and get the most out of them. They're just in that mindset. But most people have a whole spider's web of goals and things and issues and stuff that needs working on, and that does come down to conversation, and it happens within sessions. And as you say, sometimes it just flows, and if you can get to the bottom of something, or a conversation just allows something to stick in their head, and it's like a light bulb moment, it can completely shift how they approach everything else. And as you were saying before, with the nutrition and, you know, just moving more, doing cardio, going out for walks, that's the majority of your life. 1, 2, 3 hours with us is actually the smallest part of your week. And as much as it can make some big changes, you actually need to be making the decisions the whole rest of your week by yourself. So if you haven't got the capacity to do that, your results are going to be very slow. You'll just purely get the internal less, you know, of the session results, but that's it. Whereas if you can start making those changes and making different decisions for yourself, knowing why you want to do it, that's where the power comes, really.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny when you put it in perspective of like how many hours you see me in a month. So like if somebody trains with you once a week, you're like, okay, you see me 4 hours this month. Like I can only do so much in that time. Like a lot of it's going to fall on you. And my goal is to give you the tools to do that. And that's it. That's usually when I see something switch in somebody's head. They're like, oh yeah, like that's not that much that I see you. I'm like, yeah, it's not. So that always helps to kind of reframe it that way.
Yeah. And I get quite a few people that want to be told everything. Like, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. It's the whole diet plan culture, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like it. I don't like it because I know what and why you do something. But if you don't know what and why you're doing something, once you'll stop being told what to do, what are you going to do? Are you just going to go back to how you were before? You're going to be floundering. You're not going to feel like you're making progress. I want to empower people to understand and know what and why they're doing, so that then they can continue to make choices. And if they do go off plan, it's not the end of the world, because there are other ways of accounting for things and making different choices, and you can adapt and evolve your whole week because of something happening.
Yeah.
Whereas if you will only stick to the plan and then it goes off, it's that whole all or nothing mentality again, isn't it?
I'm right there with you. Yeah. I want sustainable changes, something that can last forever, not the 2-month, whatever, high protein, no carb diet and that your brain can't stand.
Exactly. And as you say, with the name of your podcast, Quality Life, it's very unlikely you're going to be having a very good quality of life if you are on any kind of extreme training or extreme diet plan. And there's also no need for it for most people. Like if you are an athlete and you are training for something very specifically, then absolutely, hardcore training is going to be part of your life, but you'll also be conditioned to it because you've dedicated your whole entire life to it. And actually, I was having a conversation the other day. People will quite often set the expectation upon themselves of looking or being like an athlete who devotes their entire lives to doing or looking like in a particular way. And you're expected to do that while still having your family, your full-time job, your social commitments and everything else. And it's about having realistic goals and having a good quality of life. So it might take you longer to get to if it is an aesthetic goal, it might take you longer to get there, but it's going to be done in a far more long-term maintainable manner if you can keep your quality of life, rather than having to sacrifice everything and then not wanting to stick to it anyway.
Right. Like you still have to live. Like you're still going to want to go out to dinner. You're still going to want to get drinks with friends. Like that's good for your social and mental health. Like do it. Absolutely. I'm glad you brought up like the like Olympic athlete and like people want to look like that. I love the behind the scenes documentaries of those athletes when you see that like they have no life. They have no friends. They don't do anything but do something for their sport. Every decision they make is through the lens of how does this affect my sport? Nobody wants to live that way. No one. And so to try and compare yourself to that is absolutely ridiculous. And people only see the good stuff. So they're like, oh, I want that. Of course I want that. It's like, no, look at what they actually do. That's very different. And you probably don't want that. I can guarantee it.
No, it's people's shifting of their goals. I think is actually a pivotal moment of realizing what it is you truly want and what it is you think you want. Because again, the whole social pressures of social media and society and these, as much as it's improving, there's still all these glossy images that have and filters that are distorting people's perspective on the world.
Yeah.
And do you want to make the sacrifice that it requires to get there? And actually most people don't, and fair enough. You just want to feel strong, healthy, living your life how you want to do it. And that doesn't generally involve chiseled abs.
No.
It's just not necessary.
Right. And it's so hard to maintain that you would just lose it if you tried to live your life again. So yeah, I'm right there with you.
So I'm asking you this question as someone in the field as well, but you can take it from your whole history and your experiences, are there any common myths that you would like to debunk?
Good question. It's funny because I did a podcast episode on the 5 myths of personal training. I can't remember what I put on there. But
oh, you were literally prepared for this question.
I know it was a couple months ago. Okay. So I think one myth that I want to kind of dispel is that like personal trainers are out there to kick your ass, which some might be, to be fair, but most aren't. Like most are genuinely trying to get you moving correctly. And that typically doesn't involve any ass kicking at all. That's more, you might actually leave the workout feeling like, what did we even do? But it's like, no, we mobilized your ankle. We helped you track your squat better so your knees aren't caving in. We did these other things to make sure that when we do get to the point where we can push you and make things hard, you're doing it correctly. So I think a lot of people are scared to use personal trainers because of that reason. They're like, I'm not ready for that. Or like, I need to get in shape before I use a trainer. It's like, no, that's ridiculous. I can't believe you'd even say that, but it's really common. Another one is that like the trainers are perfect. And like, if you ever go out to eat with anybody that works in fitness, you know, they're not like,
yeah.
Like there's like
we all
15,
like pizza.
yeah, there's like 15 beers at the table. And like it's just, you like get judged based on how you look, but really trainers are humans still and still make mistakes and still live like a normal life for the most part. So I think that's another thing that I'd like to dispel is like trainers have their struggles with food, with nutrition, with exercise, even with motivation. They're no different than anybody else. And I think honestly, there might even be more body image issues within the industry of trainers because you are judged on how you look so much. And it can make or break your business even. So I think that's honestly a common struggle within the fitness industry that people don't think about, or they just think like, oh, they've got it made. Not true at all. There's 3 other myths I know that I have out there, but I can't remember them. But those are 2 big ones.
They're 2 fantastic ones. I couldn't agree with you more as well. I have had someone say at a consultation before, you're not going to shout at me, are you? And I just said, do I sound like I'm going to shout at you? I'm really just
I know.
not a shouter.
I couldn't even imagine yelling at anybody. I like joke about doing it, but there's no way.
No, just can't bring yourself to do it, can you?
It's not in me.
You're
no.
right, though. I think a lot of people do have that, I guess, kind of military style idea, that boot camp, really hard shouting. And there are, as you say, there are trainers like that. And some people
they exist,
love
yeah.
that style of training. And that is fine. If that's what works for you, you will find some out there. But on the whole, most of us just want to help and generally communicate at normal volume levels.
Decibels, yeah. Yeah.
So what have you found to be your biggest challenge so far, professionally or personally, or a combination? Completely up to you.
My biggest challenge professionally has been starting the business and learning that whole end of things. I've always been pretty good at emotionally connecting with people really quickly. That's not something that I had to learn, but it is a really important skill that I always try and develop. But for me, I think understanding how to run a business and stay organized on the business end and on the training end is really hard. A lot of people think like I'm a super, like, you probably think like my bedroom's really clean. I'm like, no, it's a disaster. It's because like my work is so clean. And so I need to really figure out how to run like a business efficiently. That's a hard thing to do. And then on the personal end is, like I said, I've lost weight and I've regained weight, and I'm no stranger to like body image issues. Not that it's an unhealthy amount, but I'm always pretty conscious about what I'm doing. And if I start to gain weight, I freak out. Like I'll go through like a mini freak out, or I'll feel guilty or stressed if I don't get a workout in, which is not healthy. It's gotten a lot better, but it's still something that's always going to be there. and just how to manage it well is something I've gotten better at, but it's still something that needs to get better as I go. And I think that's something a lot of people can relate to, is that like, oh, I had a piece of bread, I got to go work out. Like something like that is, I always have to say this to myself. It's like, one salad doesn't make you healthy. Also, one pizza doesn't make you unhealthy. And trying to like remind myself that like on the whole, you're doing the right things. You're okay. But there's always some days that are like tough.
Yeah, it's trying to keep away from the idea of perfectionism, I think, and also just the concepts of good and bad. Anything, I think, particularly when it comes to food, I know it's not necessarily good or bad. It is what it is, and it's giving you something, but you probably want more of this something than that something. And I think it's the balance between getting joy from food and from exercise, and knowing what makes you feel good and gives you good fuel. But there is a balance. There is a joy in food. There is a joy to be found in exercise. It doesn't have to always feel like a chore. And I think a lot of people avoid exercise and eating healthy for a lot of time because of the preconceived ideas that they have about what that means. And actually, there's a lot of flexibility within it. And if you are wanting to focus on living a long and healthy and fit and strong life, that doesn't necessarily involve a very rigid process. It's a very flexible, fluid process that can kind of have a little bit of everything in, if you know what's going on. And that's why, again, it's having that tool belt that you can turn to. And how do you enjoy moving? Like, some people like to dance. I've had a client that started kayaking in the last couple of weeks, and I think that's going to be their new go-to, form of exercise along with the weights. And it's finding your joy in things, because then it doesn't feel like exercise. Then the food doesn't feel like a chore. I think quite often nutrition can come down to having to eat very bland, boring food. But if you can bring spice and flavor and fun into your food, you can actually eat really well, learn to cook, enjoy cooking, like enjoying the different processes of it. And it all becomes part of your lifestyle, rather than feeling very negatively about all the different elements. And I think having good and bad words related to any of those things can become a really big negative. And it's about trying to remove those sort of toxic words.
Yeah. Diet should be a 4-letter word. It is a 4-letter word, but it should be a swear word.
Yeah. It's always been one of my bugbears, because it's so ridiculous that they've hijacked the word for what we eat, because we all are on a diet every single day. Whatever our diet is what we're eating.
Right.
But they've so hijacked it that there's such a negative connotation to it now.
Yeah.
It's just awful, isn't it?
Yeah. I prefer nutritional adjustments. That's what I prefer.
That. Yeah, that's a nice term. I like that.
Thank you. You can take it. It's all yours.
Thank you. So do you have any general tips or advice that you think could immediately start helping people's overall well-being?
Yeah. You don't have to wait for motivation to do something. Action creates motivation. So an example, like I said, trainers struggle with motivation too. So like on days when I'm super low motivation, I'm like, Colin, just go to the gym and do your 5 sets of 5 back squats, and that's it. And I get there and I end up spending an hour there, because once I'm there, the ball's rolling, and I'm like, well, I'm here, I might as well do more stuff, and I get actually motivated to do it. So I think a lot of people need that kind of nudge. Just do something, and then the motivation will follow. Don't wait for that motivation to come. And for those people that are severely deconditioned or struggling to implement exercise, it's not an all or none thing. You can do 30 minutes of cardio throughout a day by doing 5 minutes of walking, throughout the day. It doesn't have to be this huge task. And that's something that it doesn't apply to everybody. Like if you're an extremely fit person, obviously 5 minutes won't do as much for you, but starting anywhere is a great place to start. Just doing even 5 minutes of walking is so much better than than not doing it at all. So those are kind of my tips in terms of the people that I see. Typically, that's usually my advice: is take some action and then motivational follow, and then break it up if you need to.
It truly is in the small things. And I think that is probably one of the biggest roadblocks for people. They're like, oh, I don't have time to do an hour workout. I haven't got time to do that now. I've run out of time. I've got up late, or whatever it might be. It doesn't have to be a lot, though, to count, because if you do lots of little things throughout the week, by the end of the week, you tally it all up. It adds up to so much. And as you say, once you start, you'll often end up doing so much more because you feel good for starting. And you think, actually, I do have a bit more time. It doesn't always have to be what you might perceive as a full workout to get the benefit from it.
Exactly. And to be fair, I want to point out that, like, I hate it's only 20 minutes like HIIT workout, because it's like, no, you got to take time to get there. Afterwards, you're super sweaty. You got to cool down. You got to shower. Like, I know it takes a lot of your time, so that there is that exception. But overall, it's still doing smaller increments. Like, I just wanted to put that out there, because I hate when people do that. And I'm like, oh gosh, I know that it's not just 20 minutes. It eats up a lot more of your day.
It does. And it's thinking about the style of workouts as well, because, rest and recovery is such a big part of it. You need to have good sleep. You need to have those easier days. You don't want to be putting your central nervous system under high loads of stress every single day. If you do, there's every chance that you're not getting the results you're expecting, even though you feel like you're putting the hard work in. Your body's not going to respond necessarily the way you would expect it to. You do need those rest days to truly maximize results. And that's why I think it's easy to say you can just go for a 5 or 10 minute walk, because that's not going to impact anything else. You could even just park further away at the supermarket, or you can take I need to say this right for the American audience. You can take the elevator, take the stairs rather than the elevator.
Yes.
Not the lift. and things like that. You can just take very small changes that actually isn't going to make any other dent in your day, other than the fact you've moved more. Mm-hmm. And that's where you can really make so much change to your days and weeks. Whereas, getting down to the gym for a 20-minute HIIT workout probably is more like 45 minutes.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Here's a very broad question for you. Take it as you will. What inspires you?
That's a hard question. I don't know if inspires is the right word for me. I'm really motivated by competition. And so, like, I'm always trying to be better than either myself or somebody else. I just want to be the best at what I do. That's motivating, but also, like, I've got, I'm engaged, so I'm getting married. We've got a puppy, like, we're starting a family, and, like, I want to be able to provide the things for that as best I can. And so those are really big motivational factors for me, which I guess inspirational factors as well. But I know myself, and I know I'm extremely motivated by competition. And if I don't have it, it's harder for me to get going. So I kind of have to either create it when nobody else knows that it's there, because that'll usually get me going. Those are my two: the family, and then just competition in general.
I guess that's what got you started in the first place. So it's unsurprising that it's the thing keeping you going.
Exactly.
So do you have ambitions to do more in-person training when COVID relinquishes its hold over us? Or do you think online now has really got you excited and you want to carry on along that trajectory?
I love in person, but I really think online is kind of the way forward for a lot of people, especially in the populations that I train. Like, hesitation with going back to the gym, like, I get it. And what's cool about online training is, like, people are meeting my dog all the time now. She's, like, always around. Or, like, you get to go into somebody's house and you see, like, other family members, or you see their pets, and, like, there's challenges for sure, but you get this different connection now where, like, I'm in somebody's home. I've never done that before. It's really cool. It's fun. It's cool to be able to reach people in different states. that I've never, like you said, I'm connecting with people that I never would have connected with before. And, because this is the way forward, there's the kind of business sense to just continuing online, but there's also like fun to meet people that I never would have met before and get in their homes and see their life. Basically, it's really cool. And they get to see mine too. Like I'm in the same room every time, but they at least get to see different aspects of my life. And it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. So I'm going to stick with the online training and maybe sprinkle in a little in person every once in a while.
Yeah, that's so much fun, isn't it? And it's interesting because I think this time has opened the door for a lot of people to see that it's so much easier to do stuff within your own environment because there's no delay. You can literally log off work straight onto a training session. Whereas normally you'd have to leave, I don't know, half an hour or even longer if you live in an area with lots of traffic to get to the place that you need to go, but you can immediately click off and click on. And I think that is so appealing to people because I'm amazed we haven't actually touched on this, but time is so often the biggest challenge for people, or at least the biggest challenge used as a reason for things not getting done.
Yeah. Yes.
And
absolutely.
I think people realizing how much they can do at home has really changed people's perspectives on what working out means to them, which is quite exciting, I think, for the future.
Oh yeah. And it's also improved my quality of life. Like my hours aren't quite as long anymore. So like I start early in the morning, but I only have to get up, 15 minutes before that. And I walk downstairs, and then the nighttime sessions, because people are home, it's not 7, now it's 6. And that's personally, that's a big benefit for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that balance of life, not just for them, but also for yourselves. Yeah, we've definitely both experienced that in the last few months. And it's interesting to see how this whole situation evolves, because there's definitely been a pivot in quite a lot of services being offered, and that's working better for everyone, I think.
Yeah, hopefully there's been a pivot, right? Like if you didn't pivot, you're probably in a really bad spot right now. Yeah. So that's where I think the entrepreneurial side of being a fitness professional should have kicked in for a lot of people. But yeah, hopefully people were able to pivot. And if they didn't, I hope they're okay. Like I hope they're back to working. But
yeah, it's very true. I couldn't agree with you more. And I would like to finish off by giving you the floor to share one thing that you think everyone would benefit from knowing.
I think it comes back to my recommendation of action before motivation. If you're waiting until you're motivated to do something, it's too late. Just start by doing anything and the motivation will follow.
I like that a lot. And if any of my listeners would like to get in touch with you, where can we find you? I can pop it all on the show notes.
Sure. So the website is qualitylifefit.com. That's where you'll find the online personal training. That's where you'll find the podcast. It's also in all the podcast directories. You can also email me at colin@qualitylifefit.com. And then I'm on Facebook and Instagram at Quality Life Fit or Quality Life Fitness. I can't remember. If you just search Colin Laughlin, you should get it. Yeah. I'm not great at the whole social media thing, but those are the best ways to connect with me. And if anybody just has questions, I'm always happy to help. Even if it's not to work together, if it's just to answer something, I'm more than willing to help out.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today, Colin. I've loved this conversation. It's been really quite good fun. So
thanks for having me, Vicki. This is awesome. I love this.
And there we have it, episode 23 of the Live Fit Now podcast. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Colin as much as I did. We would both love to hear from you, so don't forget you can head to the show notes and get in touch with either of us. If you'd like to email me directly, it's hello@livefitnow.co.uk. And don't forget, this episode will also be on YouTube if you know someone who would prefer to listen to it on that platform. Thank you for listening to this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, and we would love it if you would be able to share this with your friends and family, whether that's through word of mouth or on social media. Don't forget you can find us on all of the platforms. Thank you for listening. Until next Thursday.